Okay, so I'm going to be joined by Lee Keegan and Conor Sweeney. We're going to have a look ahead to the big one on Sunday, the All-Ireland football final between Kerry and Dublin. Lads, how are you keeping?
Good, Darren.
Thanks for having us on.
I suppose before getting into the actual game itself, I suppose both of you have had two different years. Lee, you've stepped away from the county scene. I suppose, Conor, you didn't really get a crack at it this year with the injury you sustained right at the start. I suppose, Conor, firstly, how is the injury doing, the recovery going?
Yeah, good, Darren. Not too bad. First round of the league, unfortunately, 28th of January. So I got to play around 50 minutes of football this year, which was a bit of a disaster. But I had my 4-month checkup there now the week, Monday gone. So I'm where I should be, thankfully. So back doing a bit of running and things. So onwards and upwards, hopefully. Fingers crossed tonight.
Yeah, was it mentally even, draining? I suppose you're just about to start the year, and I suppose to get that blow right at the start.
Yeah, that was probably the worst. You were just getting going, you know what I mean? Like looking for you tough pre-season done. You'd all that hard work done, and then obviously the first round, and it happens about 50 minutes in, and your season's over then. But look, once I got my head around it, like I didn't dwell on it or feel sorry for myself. Like I was saying to you there before we came on, we had a little baby here at Christmas, so my mind was kind of elsewhere anyway. And to be honest with you, the break has been nice. I must say, it's weird. Like between COVID and getting a serious injury is probably the only time I've had a proper break, and I've enjoyed both, which is a little bit strange, but it's just the way it is. I wasn't even going to training. I'm not even going to club training at the moment. You know what I mean? Like when I'm in 100%, but when I'm out, I like to step away because I don't know. I don't want to be standing on the sideline looking like, standing out like a sore thumb. But the break has been good. So I'm making progress, which is the good thing. And I'm back on the field doing a bit of light running. So happy days.
Yeah, in an actual weird way, maybe just even the timing of the injury, as you said there, maybe just allowed you reset for a year. And I suppose you can at least hopefully plan to have, a full year in 2024 then, all things going well.
Yeah, that's it. And I suppose the time of the year it happened to me was it was a decent time because I could write off the whole of this year. Like if it happened to me 3 or 4 months earlier, you'd have people saying, you'll make it back for the end of the club championship, or you'll make it back for the club hurling or whatever. And now I'm just telling lads, listen, I'm gone for this year, and I'll be back next year, and they don't ask you any more questions then. So from that perspective, it was kind of, the timing was decent, you know what I mean? It just allowed me to write off this year, which is good. And like you said, start fresh again from January.
Yeah, Lee, as I said, you had a different story, I suppose, stepping away from the county scene. How have you found it? Has it been weird the first 5 or 6 months, not even, going county training or even having the games week in, week out?
Sometimes. Probably I'm more surprised that I haven't missed it more, if I'm being totally honest. Similar to Conor, life kind of just, you get engrossed by certain things in life, between work, family, bits of projects going on, trying different things. And so the year was kind of flowing in, and like there's certain stages, I suppose, during the year where you think with the big games coming up, of course you get the inkling to be out there with the lads, or even what they're up to. I think the chat and the socializing with them from a training perspective is tough, and bouncing off each other with messages and having crack like that can be hard sometimes. And most nights there's always a ping off a WhatsApp, and you're waiting for something funny or something to come up. So bits like that. But if I'm totally honest, I actually haven't missed playing county that much, if I'm being realistic and honest about it. I've gone back into a full club season, and I'm actually loving it. I'm getting to meet the club lads properly, see their personalities, and just even for myself, I suppose, playing county, sometimes you don't give the due respect to club. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but you're coming and going, and sometimes the club lads, that it's very hard to integrate with them, and I suppose try and plan and meet their standards in some regards. But this year I've got a total overview of how it works, gone to some of the grounds that I've never seen, and just loving football with the club lads, really, really enjoying it. And obviously I stepped into the RT role, which again is been a daunting task at certain stages, but again enjoyable to see the different perspective of what goes on in the background, looking at how the games operate, looking at different players, because when you're involved in a county team, and as well, Conor, you're solely focused about yourself and your teammates. And you do your bits analysis on the team you're playing maybe that week or in the weeks ahead, but for the most part, 90%, it's all about you and the team, and that's your sole focus. Where now I'm seeing a totally different perspective of looking at different teams, different players, different structures, different systems, and it's just interesting. Now, all be granted, it's been a bit of a slow burner of a championship, but that's just the nature of where football is at the moment. So busy year, enjoyable, and yeah, looking forward now to what's ahead with the rest of the club championship here.
Yeah, it's funny just to pick up on that. Like, I miss it. Like, I definitely have missed the crack this year, and I obviously missed playing games and stuff. But like, I can't say that, you know, like I'm really, really, really missing it. Like, I can't say that, like, Jesus, I'm not coping. I'm coping fine without it. But it's weird. I always felt I would. I've asked myself this question, like, over the last few seasons. You know, when you start to push on, you kind of go, how will I feel when the day comes when I'm not playing? And I always kind of said to myself, I'll be fine, because I just know I will be mentally, like, I think this break has just reinforced it that, you know, once inter-county is over, I'll have no problem. I mean, like, it's nice not having to be in Thurles Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. You know what I mean? It's nice not having to get into the car and travel. Like, just getting to be with the girls, like getting to be with Connie for her first 7 months, like and not having to rush out the door training and stuff. It's great. So there's definitely more to it. And look, it's probably only around the corner from me anyway, but it's definitely good to know that life goes on and you'll manage fine just without it at the same time, you know.
I think it's an age thing as well, Conor. Like, I don't mean that like we're old, but we're older in terms of like we're playing a long time. So like when you're younger, you're very you have to be selfish in some regards, but when you're younger and the responsibilities are less outside of football, you will give everything to it. It's your sole priority, your primary focus. That's it. When you kind of move through life and your family comes along and maybe work commitments and different things go on, you start seeing the opportunities outside of football, and you realize that, yeah, do you know what? I really like football, love football, but there's so much more to dive into and delve into. And that's where I see, like you, I think COVID came, I don't want to say it came at a good time, that doesn't make sense, but came at a time where I had to reassess where I'm at outside of football, and it worked really well for me because I seen the other side of football, and I actually enjoy it. I enjoy watching games. Yeah, a Liverpool place playing, but there's so much more opportunity in life sometimes outside of football, and that's just the learning curve that I was on. So similar to yourself, yeah, love the crack, but there's so much more that you have to focus on outside of football.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, is it because of maybe the intense nature? Inter-county seasons are intense, you know, as it is down the years. But with this sort of condensed season that it's nearly non-stop and then it finishes and you're into the club championship, that I suppose like yourselves there, you're saying you can just focus on the club. It's one focus rather than you're finished the inter-county, then you're maybe a couple of weeks off and then you're straight into maybe club league games again.
It's very rushed though this year. It's just very rushed. Like for me anyway, like if I was a player, like we always say we love games week in, week out, but you don't want games week in, week out every week. You want some kind of leeway, space to train and prep and adapt. So I think it's very run off kind of a quick year. I think even like you take the Limerick success on Sunday, like we all are trying to digest that, you know, what they've done and made history. And now we're only kind of diving into the All-Ireland football final, which is only in 3 days' time, 4 days' time. So it feels very much like we're just going back to back to get the season over with. So that's where I was coming from anyway.
Yeah, like it's I think the run into the finals is definitely a little bit rushed. I mean, look, I've never played in one, so I can't say I know what it's like, but like I was just listening to another podcast this morning and they were saying, you know, there used to be 4-week lead up to All-Ireland finals and that just gave both counties a real opportunity to get everyone behind you, you know what I mean, and savour the moment and kind of just get that build that bit of momentum and build that kind of excitement about the whole thing. And now, like, they're going to be over before we know it. Now, at the same time, I like the structure at the moment. I think as an inter-county player, you're screwed either way. I don't think it matters. I think the new structure for the club player is great. I really do. Like, you know, I see our lads at home. They can finally plan just a few bits and pieces in terms of holidays and stuff. You know, get them out of the way earlier on in the summer, May, June, and like, you know, our championship here at home is only kicking into gear next weekend. So like, look, it may be the wrong end of the summer. I don't know, but look, we're never happy. I think that's the bottom line. No matter what structure we have, we're always giving out about something. But I just think from an inter-county perspective, it's really tough. But look, we're the 1%, I suppose, of all players. So it's probably the best way to have it. But like, when I come out of tip, like you might take a week off, maybe 2, and like, you know, you are half expected to be back on the pitch again doing something. And then if you're lucky enough to go into, you know, Christmas week or maybe after Christmas with the club, like you're back thinking again about Tip, and like there's just no let up. You know what I mean? So I do think it's gone more 12 months of the year now for the intercounty lad, and like even the days like I need to be doing something in the off season. I couldn't take 6 weeks off there after Tip or after club, because I put on weight and I'd go back in, and everything is so much tougher. So I need to keep tipping away the whole time. You know what I mean? So like it's 12 months of the year really. Now I enjoy it, but like you don't really have that time where you can switch off for long periods of time. And
that's the one thing I've noticed is that, funny enough, I love working out, training, all that kind of stuff, but now, because I'm not involved in the intensity of intercounty, you can work at your own schedule. I feel like it's so structured for your life when you're within a county. I feel like we're nearly baby to some extent, because your weekends are planned out for you. You know what you're doing on Monday, training Tuesday, probably gym on Wednesday, rest Thursday, calls, whatever it is. Now, like I could go to the gym at 10 o'clock or maybe 6 o'clock in the evening. I'm not worried about, or I know there's training 10 minutes on the road. I'm not going traveling the country.
You can fit your gym session in there now, like around your day, where there's like it was so scheduled for you, and like everything else, like here with Shauna, like Shauna's been with me now since I started in 2010. Like Jesus, like everything revolves around your intercounty season. Like you just hand her the schedule, and you go, this is it. If you want to go somewhere, here are the windows. You know, like I'm caught here, here, and here, and like you're working everything around it. Like, and it's so selfish. And I've only really realised that the last number, like I've been incredibly selfish, as we all have. But like I think you need to be as well if you need to get to a certain level. But like Jesus, it is all consuming, and like fair play to the partners. Like they definitely don't get enough credit. They don't get the credit they deserve anyway. But like
Connor's getting a good plug in here after this now. So
I always remember. Was it Jim Gavin? Jim Gavin used to bring all the women on holidays and stuff with the lads, like, you know what I mean? And he was just emphasizing the importance of, like, you know, the partners and stuff. But sure, he's bang on, like, now.
Like a happy life. Have a happy outside life. It balances well on how you're going to perform. And if you're having not issues, but if you're having like you're pulling away from each other, it's going to have distractions on you. And I'm not talking partners, but just general life. Like, it's just you have to have some balance away from just that rigorous role of independent. I think that's a good example. Jim Gavin had that to a T with his lads. So
Lee, you mentioned earlier probably it's been a slow burner of a championship. Probably not a whole pile has been fantastic this year. Maybe the last day of the groups in the All-Ireland, that was a good day. And probably Kerry Derry the last day was a really good game. But aside from that, there hasn't been a whole pile standout. Are we hoping this is the game now that we maybe just might be in the mind of people to save the championship a bit and remind people that football is, you know, a great sport to watch when it's played, played well?
Listen, they are the best two teams. There's no beating around the bush. They plan to be here, and that's just the reality where they're at in terms of their squad depth and the players they have, and the quality of winning All Irelands year in year out. So I think we're going to get a brilliant game. I don't think they're the two teams that they were, though. At the same time, I don't think Dublin are near the level they were. I think Kerry are a little bit off from where they were last year as well, and it's understandable. But they are the best teams. But during the championship, like I found it quite hard to pick many games that have been a standout, to be honest. Maybe get the Tyrone Monaghan game early in the year, which is a cracker. But I think, they knew that because of the lifelines they had. And the longer the season's gone on, it's become a really risk-assessed, safety kind of football. Teams are nearly afraid to make mistakes. And that's the way the games are playing out, really kind of slow, monotonous. And teams don't care how the game looks. They're all about results. And that's just the way the business is for a lot of these teams. So I thought the semi-finals were good. Thought they had a bit of quality in terms of some of the plays that we've seen, but very little to say that. And like, I suppose the reason I was looking at the year probably this morning, just and why is that the case? The reason probably is because it's a short season, but you have so many wiggle rooms to play badly. There's not enough consequence as a result of a bad performance. And like, take the Kerry example, for instance, against Mayo. I'm not saying Mayo because they beat them. I'm just using an example how bad Kerry could be for that one game, because they were looking down the line as a result. They didn't care. They had 2 more games regardless, 3 more games potentially. So consequence isn't severe enough for teams because they know there's more opportunities. And I think that's why the games aren't flowing the way they should. There's not enough on the line. And you take the last day, and I don't agree with 3 teams once you're in it, but that last day of football and even the week before, they were brilliant games because there was so much at stake. It was proper championship football, do or die. that's where we've seen the cutthroat championship and what it's about. So from the quarterfinal on, it's been okay. Semi-finals are good. I expect to get an absolute humdinger the weekend. I think the two teams know there's opportunities there. Full house in Croke Park, it's where you want to be. And to be honest, I'm happy it's them two teams in some regards because they do play the most attractive football. So I'm expecting an open-ended game of football, not this tight, risk-assessed stuff. I think two teams are going to go at it and go for it. So I expect a really good game on Sunday.
Yeah, I'd probably have a little bit more of an optimistic viewpoint from the whole thing. I'm listening to a lot of lads recently, and they're probably close friends as well, and they're saying, "Geez, football is in a bad place, and the games have been very poor, and it's really hard to watch." I get that, but like, I suppose I'm looking at it from a player's perspective, and like we as players, we know how hard, like we know the work that goes into preparing for a game, and like. Even if you take some of the Ulster games, I know people who aren't players like and who haven't played will say, "Oh, it's extremely boring." But like, there's something really intriguing about some of those tight games as well. And I suppose as a player, you're always looking for like the tactical side of things, like who's picking up who. Like, are we playing with a permanent sweeper? Is it rotational? You know, you're looking for these little bits and pieces that maybe other people don't see. And like, I suppose that just comes from playing it for so long, and we love it. But I don't know, lads. Has it been any worse than previous years? Like, you know,
I tell you kind of what frustrates me and why I'm not saying it. I don't think it's a great championship because teams are any worse off. What frustrates me is some of the rules around what's contributing to our games and so forth. Like I hate the mark. I don't know for you as a forward. I think it takes out good defensive play, but I also think it takes out killer forward play.
Yeah.
I think it just stops momentum on a team. Like if you were forward now and you got a ball, like your first instinct is, I want to take this guy on in a one-on-one position. So not only has that been eliminated, but we're also eliminated in one-on-one defending now because we don't have one-on-one defenders anymore. This is what frustrates me within the game. So, well, as a result for me is the reason games aren't great spectacles anymore. And I get the tactical side of things. I 100% appreciate it, but teams are just dropping so many bodies back as a consequence of the mark rule, and it doesn't give any kind of positivity towards that. So I suppose where I'm looking at from is I love seeing attacking, lovely flow football, but as a result of certain rules within the game, I think we don't get the spectacles the football deserves. And absolutely, I understand the players put so much into it, and it's all about results. I'm only probably looking at it from the other side now is that when you're actually watching the games now, we're not getting those high scores. You know, you look at most games now, you're probably only averaging 14 points, 13 points for each team. You're not getting the big scores anymore, and that's the way football is. That's fine, I get that. But I think if we start looking at some of the rules that we've implemented, the mark rule for me is a no-no. I think it just gets rid of good defensive and attacking play.
Yeah, like just I suppose on the mark, selfishly, like I've got some very handy points from it in the past. So like from that perspective, I love it because obviously I'm a free taker. So if I get a mark, it's essentially free for me. So that's good for me. But if they want to keep it, they should tweak it. Like this little ding pass of 20 meters, a little pop ball, it's scandalous. It's embarrassing is what it is. And that's where I do agree with my friends who don't play it. They kind of go, that's a joke. And it is a joke. But like there's some fantastic examples of long diagonal balls outside of the boot that's put into the back post. And, you know, you've Clifford gone up and he's catching it over Sean Kelly or, you know, these unbelievable high fielding catches that you can kind of reward. You can kind of go, okay, that deserves a mark or whatever.
That's a reward. That's fine. I just don't think we do enough of it because of the nature of the systems and setups now. It doesn't allow us to take that 30, 40-yard pass. The only thing I see really kind of do well, Monaghan Bono was really good at it, but I think Kildare really showed that against Roscommon in the group stage. Sorry, Gar, I know Roscommon, but you know, they used target men and they weren't afraid to kick 30, 40, 50-yard passes because they had inside guys and they took out the blanket defense. But that dinky stuff, it's so infuriating as a supporter or someone that's looking at the game. It just kills everything.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. But like even like I suppose as an inside forward, like the last couple of years, lads, it's very hard. It's very hard to say I'm enjoying playing inside forward. Like the last number of years, it's become so different. Like I suppose growing up and going back maybe 10 years ago, it's probably the most desirable position on the pitch, you know, an inside forward, because you get so much license to do whatever you want and there's so much space and, you know, you could trust yourself to maybe take on your man and stuff and get scores. But now it's just become like, how do we get around these numbers? And that kick pass like we're talking about just isn't on like anymore. And especially like, you know, when you're playing for Tip and you're down to division, sometimes you're not that quick at the transition as other teams would be. So like by the time you're up there, you're looking at just a blanket of bodies, and it just becomes so frustrating. And it's becoming a tough position to play, especially, you know, like I said, when you're not as quick or you're not as good at the transition as maybe the top teams are. I think it's a challenging position for sure at the moment, and that's disappointing for the game. Like it really is.
It's built for running. It's built for running teams. The system, you know, like you look at a lot of the top teams now, maybe outside of Kerry, Dublin, who have brilliant inside forwards. You know, like at the top level, but like you take a Derry. If you look at them against Kerry last night, how much would their attacking play was running at Kerry? Very little, probably in terms of kicking that diagonal ball. So it's suited to teams that are really athletic, really fit, and have deep runners. And that's what again. And you're right. If I was a player now coming in, a young lad, a minor or whatever, under 16, and would you really have an appeal to play corner forward anymore? I don't think so.
It's tough.
Yeah, everyone wants to be the Cliffords of this world, and all that's fine, but it's very hard to get away from the systems anymore. With the numbers game they have.
If they come back, I don't know, and maybe at the weekend we'll probably get a good glimpse of that kind of where there might be a little bit more space.
Yeah.
But again, like Crow Park plays to that and whatever. But you know, I just think too many of our games are probably like that, where it's a case of trying to beat the blanket, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, even if you go back to last year's All-Ireland final, and even on the mark, it was actually probably Galway were on top in that first maybe 15, 20 minutes. And I think David Clifford got 2 marks, even just to keep the Kerry ship afloat, even just keep them in touch. Even on the mark as well, I think, Lee, you mentioned the Kildare one, the Kevin Feely one at the end to win it for Kildare. That's the example of what the mark should be.
Paul Kevin Feely, you're only like how many seconds to take a mark?
Well, 15, I think, is it?
He took away 50, but it was worth the 50 because his prep was so good for it. But that's the best example is that quality of leap and a kick pass, the risk involved in taking that. And that's where you should reward your players for taking that on. Like,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I suppose on to the game itself. Kerry are slight favourites with the bookies at the moment, but it is kind of a 50-50 game. They are, I think, 10-11. Kerry 6-5 Dublin. I think that's what it was the last time I checked, anyways. But is that the fact?
I thought it'd be the other way around, to be honest. I know there's not much in it, but I just thought they might have Dublin slight favourites.
I do.
Is that the fact because of I suppose the man that everyone's been talking about, and for years, for the last 4 or 5 years, David Clifford? Is he the reason why maybe Kerry are just that slight bit ahead? Well, favourites wise, anyways, and maybe people might be leaning towards him that he is just that good that he could, launch.
Last year was a big one for them. I think last year the weight of not beating Dublin for so long in Championship was a big factor. But then you put that in realistic terms. You look at Dublin, how close they were without Conor Callanan, without the band back together. I personally think that Dublin have more armoury than Kerry. And that's why I think Dublin are in a great position. I think they have more scorers up top. Like if Sean O'Shea or Clifford have an off day, which is quite rare lately, for me, Kerry are under huge pressure. And I don't think Kerry get away with what they did in All-Ireland last year. If Clifford could hit those heights, but I think Dublin have so much more to offer than what probably Galway did last year that Dublin will hurt Kerry defensively if some of their top guys up front catch fire.
Yeah, I just think they're probably slight favourites because of last year there, and just they're going in as All-Ireland champions or whatever. But I'm just looking here at the two teams. Like I think Lee is spot on. Like if you can hold David right, like it's funny holding Clifford is to maybe hold him to 5 or 6 points. Like that's mad when you think about it. You know what I mean? But like if Gainey doesn't fire at the weekend and Sean O'Shea, doesn't have a 9 or a 10 out of 10, it's hard to see where the rest of the points are going to come from. You know what I mean? Like, okay, Paddy might chip in with 1 or 2. Darren Moynihan, Spillane, I'm not sure. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Now, what I will say is I do think the Kerry forward line is a little bit more balanced in terms of like the work side of stuff. I do think Moynihan and Spillane are there for, a hard graft. Sean O'Shea doesn't shirk his workload either. But I think the two boys in the wings will give you serious work rate. I'm looking at the other forward line, and like I think they'll start Kilkenny. I think they have to, and I think Paddy Small might miss out. I think he'll go with Scully, Mannion, and Kilkenny possibly. I just think Paddy Small might miss out there. But to me, like, there's more forward power in the Dublin forward line for sure. I can't wait. I'm just looking at it here and getting excited. it's so hard to call. Like, but my heart says Kerry. For some reason, my heart says Kerry. But
there's a great stat on the week, Conor, that if you take Clifford and O'Shea, right, they nearly contribute to 50% of those scores.
Yeah, that's too much.
Do you know what I mean? So that's people say the over-reliance on Clifford, right? But you have to include Sean O'Shea and freeze and for play. Like 50% of your scores for a top team is crazy. Like
the only thing I'd say there is Dublin. They cannot afford to give away a free inside the 45.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, and like a lot of Shawnee's scores are obviously coming from place balls, but like it's some arsenal to have to know that you have a free taker. That if you get a free inside 45. There's a very good chance that's going over the bar. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's some arsenal to have. I think there's a big game in Gainey. I think, like, for me, he's probably the third, if not the fourth, kind of forward that's going to be looked at, if you get me. Like, I think all the attention will go to David and Shawnee and then Paddy. I reckon Merchant will pick up Paddy, and I reckon just Gainey, it could be a day for him. He's playing well. He's not scoring a whole pile, but he's doing the right thing all the time, and I just think he could explode at the weekend, and if he does, like, it'll be some timing. But you're right. If they tie up the two boys, like, sometimes it can be hard to see where the scores are going to come from. But
I would like to see Gainey up top with Clifford. I think then that causes a huge headache for Dublin full back line. And like, again, I don't like to go back to Mayo because I played, but one thing I noticed in Mayo in the first half in particular, how high they played their full forward line. So they played Tommy and Ryan up top, and the consequence of that for Dublin was their full back line got ran riot. It was a good ball, it was quick, and Kerry can do that. So I'd love to see Paul Gainey play side by side with Clifford and a higher line, just to give him that additional support. And you're right, Kerry's forward line works like absolute dogs. They will not shirk a workload in terms of that work rate. I just would challenge them around their scoring ability sometimes. That they need to get chip and score, even if Spillane and Moynihan come in one each. That's a huge issue. Now you're looking. Now you've Clifford and Shawnee Shea not taking the whole burden. You guys chipping in with scores. So that'll be a huge plus if they got that.
100%. Like Moynihan and Spillane have scores in them. They have a point from playing them. Like, I know Spillane missed it. He claimed a good mark on the 10th minute there. The semi-final, but it was a poor shot. Like, they're not shooters, but Moynihan definitely has a score in him. Look, you're probably relying then on Tom O'Sullivan. You see, I don't know, will Tom O'Sullivan attack as much at the weekend? I think, like, the three boys for Dublin inside, they'll play high enough. Costello, Con and Basquel. He'll have a lot of defending to do, I think, at the weekend, and I think he'll be curtailed somewhat going forward. Because Jesus, lads, that full forward line for Dublin, like, that's going to take some watching.
Well, Basquel won't have as quiet as a game he did against Monaghan. I don't think Basquel suits that setup or that style of teams. So I'm tipping him really highly for this weekend to have a big game. I'd say, like, Foley will probably pick up Con, right? Because he normally just takes the best player, and then you're kind of going, you put Thomas Sullivan on the next best player. Yeah. But who's that? Is it Costello or is it Basquel? Like, it's Costello in form. It's Costello in form, yeah.
Well, you see, this is it. Like, Basquel was playing really well up until the semi, had a poor semi. Costello had a poor year and was man of the match the last day. I'd be putting Thomas Sullivan and Costello.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, try and quench him and just trust that Graham O'Sullivan can do a job on Basquel. But Jesus, it's going to be tough.
The other fighting prospect is I think Kieran Kelly has to start. I think he will start. I think this is the challenge he needs. I think that guy could come in with 2, 3, 4 points a weekend. I think he's going to be an absolute ferocious effort coming from him Sunday. And you go back to 19, you take the first game against Dublin, or against Kerry, didn't score, and he got challenged. He comes back for the replay, he kicks 4 points in the first half as a result. So I expect a huge kickback from Kilkenny. But what's also dangerous for Kerry as well is the form of Fenton and McCarthy. Arguably playing some brilliant football. Fenton, again, he seems to have caught fire now in the last 3 or 4 games. That's a scary sight for any team. And when he's chipping out with 2 points, he looked like a man that was just sick of on in the second half in the semi-final. I just said, you know what, I'm taking this game by itself now. I'm getting rid of man. And so that's going to be a huge challenge for Kerry. And yeah, Kerry have been challenged midfield all year. They've come good, and they came good against Derry eventually as well. So that's going to be another huge test for them guys, Dermot Connor and Jack Barry. Jack Barry has a great record against Fenton, and that's going to irk Fenton, I think, because there's been a lot of talk about it. So I expect a huge reaction from Fenton on that.
It's gas. Like, when you look at the 4 midfielders here on paper, right, you can really only see one winner. But like, suppose O'Connor and Barry were challenged like against. They thought they'd struggle against Con Kilpatrick and against Tyrone. They're probably the two. I thought they were the two best midfielders, the Tyrone lads, until they went out. They dealt with them. Then the last day they probably played against the two best midfielders in the country, in Conor Glass and
Rogers.
Yeah, Rogers, and they dealt with them. So these boys will be up for it. They'll be confident. They'll feel like they can handle, like you said, O'Connor or Barry has done a job in Fenton numerous times. So they'll fancy their chances there. I'd say like whoever comes out on top there, lads, you know yourself, it's one in midfield most of the time.
Yeah.
Like whoever comes out on top there, like, both sets of teams have the forwards to do the business. So whoever wins that battle, you'll go a long way.
Yeah, looking at the spread of scores, even the last year's semi-final, Kerry had 5 scores, Dublin had a spread of 9 scores over 113. So have Dublin maybe they're not reliant basically, as you said there, maybe Kerry are more so reliant, like David Clifford got 6 points, Sean O'Shea 1-4, and then you had Paddy, Tom O'Sullivan and Dara Moynihan. You had Con O'Callaghan didn't play in the semi-final last year and Paul Mannion into that as well. Have Dublin maybe just that bit more firepower or more options, if you like,
they do, but what I would say, Dara, is they're struggling to get a lot of spread of scores from their forwards. They might be getting 1 or 2, but like if you take Costello's form in those 2 games, or even Basquez in the Mayo game, them 2 guys hit a huge score. I think Con is playing really well, but I think he can score a lot more when he goes a bit more direct. So again, I think like a guy of that quality, he could just explode into like on Sunday, and he's done it in most All-Ireland finals. We'll give an opportunity, and I know Thomas Sullivan picked him up in the 19 final. He took him for 4 in the second game. So when Con is hungry like that and he's on goal, he is.
He's clutch. Like he'll turn up again.
And you talk about Clifford being one of the best. Like Con is sensational as a footballer, and as direct and as dangerous as a forward you'll ever come across. He really is that good.
Yeah, he's so direct.
What I love about the setup of both teams, right, is that Kerry and Dublin, right, will look at each other, and you look at the semi-finals, and the opportunities for goals against both defenses is huge. Like that's basically both teams negative from the semi-finals. Yeah, Kerry only conceded 1 goal, Dublin didn't concede, but the amount of goal chances that offered up for each team. So you can just imagine the forwards coaches for both Kerry and Dublin for the final of the weekend. And what you're telling your forwards, take them on 1-on-1 positions. There's going to be huge scope there for goal chances. I expect goals Sunday.
Yeah, I watched the Derry and Kerry match this morning. I'm a teacher, you know what I mean? But I done better than noon. So I said I'd watch it again. There was 2 clear-cut goal opportunities in the first few minutes. You know what I mean? They carved Kerry open. Yeah. That's something I'm looking forward to seeing. Like, Tyke Morley is so key to that defence, and like. I just feel like if he has to keep an eye on a Mannion or a Kilkenny or I don't know who will be at 11, like he needs to be engaged. Do you know what I mean? So I think Dublin will be looking at that going, we need to kind of engage Morley out the field on the 40 and just, leave that bit of space for the lads. So that's definitely why I'd say Kilkenny might come into that half-hour line. Yeah. He might even be thrown into 11 and say, do you know what, you do your thing and see what Morley does or see what Kerry do. But just go back to your point a while ago, you were just saying there that like we can't really see where the scores are going to come from Kerry outside of the 2 buys. Like they'll know that. Like they'll be talking about that this week, below in Killarney. They'll be saying, Jack O'Connor will be saying, right lads, like here's the situation. All our scores are coming from the 2 buys. We need scores coming from elsewhere. Like if we're talking about it, they're definitely talking about it. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't be afraid. Like I can see other lads getting a few points, but my point, they'll need to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like Murphy has a score in him. Gavin White got a goal the last day. Tom has a score in him, but like they will need to show up at the weekend and kick a few scores because they'll need to take the pressure off the 2 lads for sure. But
I think these all-Ireland guys need to take risk, and these are the teams that are that actually are not afraid to take the risk. They'll kick the ball in. They'll do something that most teams are afraid to do. So. That's why I expect a really good scoring, flowing game of the weekend because the 2 teams are not afraid to make their mistakes or made to take on their men or that kick pass. So I think for the team of the weekend, the team with the greater risk and not afraid to go at it has a great opportunity. And like again, you look at each team and each like Jack and Des, you know each other. This game on paper is as even as it gets. You can go through every permutation, but there is such there's such probably belief in each camp that they can actually beat each other. That's why I think this game is so intriguing because it's such opportunity for both teams. When you look at the game plans, the way they play and the setups, there's just massive opportunity for both sides.
Yeah, the Kerry team has just been announced. There's one change. Stephen O'Brien has come in for Adrian Spillane. So
Didn't think he'd do that now.
No, I thought Steve has played a full game for a long time. I think it's a big call to put him into an environment like that.
Jeez, it's probably it's the one change that he could have made. But I honestly thought he'd hold Stephen. Like he's the role he's been asked to do. Like he started last year's final and did really well, but I just think his role off the bench is like. Can you imagine if you're 60 minutes in or 50 minutes in after running around after someone and you see this lad coming on? He's probably the most direct player I've played against. I've seen him like he just. You talk about Con being direct. Stephen O'Brien only knows one way, and he's so low to the ground. He's a nightmare to mark. But listen, they're obviously going for it. Like they're obviously going. Listen, you give us what you have, and then we'll make changes. But
his contribution was key for the semi-final. He was the guy that.
Oh, he turned it like.
And only for that change, Kerry in huge trouble. Like.
Yeah, and even his work rate, like okay, he won a few frees and whatever, but like he blocked down the goalie once. He turned over 2 or 3 balls. That's a positive sign. Like that's a positive change. Like that shows they're going. They're going all out for it. But like. His impact now on the bench is that little bit more limited because Stephen O'Brien was that one man to make the difference. Like Kerry's bench isn't as strong as previous years, and
Tony Brosnan back there as well is a big loss as well.
Yeah, so. Listen, it may work. You know what I mean? It could very well work.
Yeah, and would you be surprised if if they switched around that Stephen O'Brien was then half an hour before the game back on the bench, or these dummy teams? I
think they'll play him. I think he'll start him. Yeah, I think to fair Jack, like he probably play him. I couldn't see him not starting out, to be honest. And I think the Tony Brosnan thing might have been a bit of a shock as well for them. They have to readapt now because again, although Tony probably hasn't been as good as he has been, I still see him as a big player that you could have brought on the All-Ireland final. I think Killian Spillane is sub as well this weekend.
Yeah, he's named on the bench. Yeah,
that's a huge bonus. And I think he was huge in the 19 final against Dublin. Big impact, and he's a scoring forward. Which is huge.
He's class. Like it's he's quality, and like if he's on the bench, he's not put on the bench for the crack. He will see game time, I would say.
100%.
Himself, Micheál Burns, probably now, or the guys maybe Adrian Spillane. Yeah, those are probably your 3 subs. You know what I mean? Your 3 first subs, anyway. But that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose Killian Spillane probably thrives off coming off the bench as well. Like he doesn't seem to lack any confidence. He probably would start on most county teams as well. Like he has that bit of class, really. That a typical Kerry forward has that left foot. So I suppose, and even the confidence he'll take from that 19 final. He was the reason that Kerry got the replay off us in the end.
Yeah, but like he's getting an opportunity to sit down and watch the game unfold for 50 minutes and. He's looking at the cornerbacks and how they're going, and he's watching them tire. You know what I mean? And he's coming on then to see the game out. Sure, like you said, he would start on the majority teams. You know what I mean? And he's class, so that's a big bonus for them for sure. Yeah.
And he comes on and gets 2 points in the game that tight. That's worth its weight in gold. That's the kind of difference. That's the level of how tight this game is and the margin that we're talking about. It's something like that could swing a Kerry's way. And as you said, like Killian's obviously a smart enough guy that when he does come on, he always makes an impact or a contribution. And he has a good track record against Dublin in terms of scoring.
Like if that substitution is right, like Spillane was the kick out option. Adrian, you know what I mean? And they're down a bit of height now on that half forward line. So that's one negative. Like I know they put a few balls down on top of him before. So that's just, obviously you can't have it all the way or every way, should I say. But I don't know. I'd still like to see, I don't know what I like Adrian Spillane coming off the bench. You know what I mean? I think I prefer to have Stephen come off the bench.
Yeah.
But listen, like I said.
I would think Adrian's going to be a midfield option now as a result for the guys. I think if they burn out, I don't think he's going to be a forward option. Again, because you're chasing scores in the game, and if you're behind against Dublin, Adrian isn't the guy that's going to get you them. I think he's a brilliant work rate type kind of character for Kerry. He does a really good job. But if you're looking at scores off him, he's not the guy you're looking to have from the bench.
Oh yeah, if he's a middle third player, like if O'Connor or Barry don't see it out or whatever, he'll be in for sure. But yeah.
Regarding Dublin changes, obviously we mentioned Kieran Kilkenny. Off the bench the last day, Jack McCaffrey, Lorcan Ordell, Dean Rock, Tom Lahiff. I think they'll hold Jack back. I think he's making a big impact. Even with his pace has never gone away. Like there's those driving runs, and even probably the lift he gives to the crowd just to hold back someone like that. You probably would expect him to be on the bench again.
Love to see him start. I think he's absolutely X factor. He's just one of those guys that, again, when you want to see the game played in a good manner, Jack is just one of those guys that seems to be brimming with a smile and just doing things that are not normal. But I do agree, probably there. I can't see him playing or starting, sorry, but definitely another match winner to bring on. And his contributions have been pretty good. Like when he has come on, it's either getting a score, setting up a score. And when legs are tired in Croke Park, it's a scary place when you have someone with that injection of pace to come at you, and it's a lonely place too when you're trying to track guys like Jack McCaffrey down, and you have a top four coming around a loop for 4 points. So he's going to be a huge impact sub for Dublin at the weekend as well when the game is in his melting pot.
Like I'm just looking there. Like I don't know who would miss out if you were to start him. Maybe Lee Gannon at the corner and put Merchant back. That would allow Jack to the half back line. But I
think Lee's doing a good job though. I think he'll be starting. I think he's safe enough, and I think he's a good player for Dublin. I think he's doing a really good job, and he offers, again, we're on a bit scoring. He could chip in with a point the weekend. He did the same in semi-finals.
He's very good. He's been I'd say the team will be as is. Maybe Kilkenny for maybe Paddy Small, or Scully. Paddy Small. I'd say Scully got through some work unnoticed. Like it's crazy the work.
Yeah, Desi wasn't afraid to whip him when he got black card last day.
No, he wasn't, and he brought him. Like funny, he brought him back on for a few minutes.
Take him off. Yeah, ruthless.
Yeah, strange one, funny one, but
and as well, what's going to be an interesting battle is the keepers, because I do expect a press from both teams. So it's going to be interesting from that perspective. Cluxon hasn't got that same range he has in terms of how far he can go, but he's still sensationally accurate. And I think Shane Ryan has had a brilliant year. I think he's so underrated as a goalkeeper. What he brings to Kerry. He's so calm on kickouts when the pressure comes on. So that's going to be a really intriguing battle from both sides. Well, how the kick-out goes, and if it does go long, who's going to have the aerial advantage then? Because you got 4 big midfielders who can put the ball from the sky.
Yeah, 100%. I can't wait. Jeez, I'm getting excited again just even thinking about it.
Lee, I suppose from the defender's perspective, and we mentioned Clifford as well, but it's probably one of the big questions in the Dublin camp this week and last week, who was going to take him. I think Michael Fitzsimons took him last year, probably struggled a bit in the first half. I think he got more scripts of him in the second half. Is it a big ask for Michael Fitzsimons at the age of... He's not showing his age, but even just, Clifford is unbelievable. Do you play a Brian Howard in front, a sweeper, a double team? What do you think Dublin will be thinking in that regard?
I think Fitzsimons will pick him up, if I'm totally honest, again. I still think he has, like, you've seen the battle he had with Conor McManus in the quarterfinal. Like, the reality is, and Conor touched on it, like, David Clifford is going to score 5 or 6, 7 points. That's just the reality. You accept it, you move on. Yeah. And that's probably damage limitations in some aspect. My worry for Dublin is if they start dropping people back, I think then that doesn't suit Dublin. And we've seen when they play in that kind of that system, it doesn't suit a lot of their flair players, and they get very lateral and very slow and kind of ponderous as a result. So my thing is Howard's usually their man to kind of sweep around, so I expect him to that role, but I wouldn't expect anyone else to help out. I think Fitzsimons will want the role to take it on. That's the kind of leader he is for them and that kind of player. So I don't expect much to change in terms of that role for Fitzsimons. I think Dublin would want to press as high as possible with their 6 forwards, because they'll see a huge opportunity. And Derry give a lot of advice to Kerry, or to Dublin, forwards, is that you get in a 1-1 position with the Kerry backs, you take them on. You're in space for bar. Like, you see what Garrett McGuinness did from half back, and that's a half back. You're looking at 6 top forwards on the Dublin side. That's your bit of advice. Take the Kerry guys on 1-on-1 position, and you get scores for you. So I don't expect Dublin to be totally obsessed with Clifford, and I think Desi came out and said, listen, he's the type of guy that you're just going to have to admire sometimes. He's going to get those scores. And sometimes as a defender, you can do everything in the world to stop a guy like him. He's just going to score the absolutely ridiculous. And you just have to shake his hand and say, you know what, that's just brilliant. So I think Fitzsimons, although an aging beauty, he'll still be the guy to be tasked with. And that's the role he wants. He'll want that matchup. And that's the type of guy Fitzsimons is. So listen, he holds on to 6, 7 points. I think that's probably a good day for a defender. As someone told me before, if you can see that much in the game before Clifford came, you would have had a really bad day. Now that's seen as a pretty good job by your defender when you're marking Clifford. So I expect Howard to sweep a little bit, but I don't expect him to go too defensive. I just don't think it suits them. Doesn't suit their style of play.
I think, like, what was I going to say there? If Mick Fitzsimons, which he will be, and Dublin, which they will be watching videos of the Derry match, the one thing he has to do, like, a lot more than what Christy McKay done was he needs to show him onto his right a lot more there. Like, I watched the game again this morning, and I know he's probably one of the best players, if not the best we've seen, right? And like you'd say, Chrissy was tight. I just think Chrissy this year wasn't the same Chrissy as last year. I just don't think he was up to his natural high standard. So that was one thing to consider. But he left David shoot far too much for me off his left. Now I know he's a 2-footed player, right? But Jesus, the lesser two evils, like shift him onto the right and make him kick a point from 35 or 40 off his right. And if he does that, then you just go, do you know what? Like, there's not a whole pile I can do about that. But don't let him kick off his left. I just thought Chrissy left him just get the shot out. Like, he was afraid of being burnt as well. Like, Clifford is really kind of, he's quick, he's deceptively quick.
He's very fast, yeah.
And I'd say Chrissy was kind of like, I don't want to get taken here on the outside for a goal. But for me, like, he just left him open for the left-footed shot a little bit too much. And I think if Mick Fitzsimons watches the match back again, he'll just say, do you know what? I'll just stay on the other side a little bit more and make him shoot off the right. And if he can kick it over under pressure from 35 or 40 off the right, then you just have to go, do you know what? Fair enough. But, like, Jesus, for me, keep him onto the right anyway as much as possible.
You know who did a really good job, actually? Hamsey did quite a good job on him.
Yeah, he did.
Forced him wide. He was on his toe. He wasn't afraid to commit to tackle him or try and beat him to the ball. Like, Hamsey is a really tough defender, but like he kind of showed how you can mark Clifford. Now Clifford finished at 5. That's fine. But he had a lot of skewed shots from the pressure Hamsey put on him. And that was down to the pressure. So I think Fitzsimons will look at those two games and say, yeah, look at the pressure Hamsey was on him. He was on his feet. He was trying to get at him, where Chrissy probably took a step off him. And you give a step to a guy like Clifford, he's just going to swing that over all day. Like, I mean, you give that guy a second, it's like a minute from.
Yeah, you see, I think Chrissy was carrying a bit of a knock on the Achilles. Like, if this was 12 months ago, I think it would have been a different scenario. Yeah. I think Chrissy last year was just unbelievable. Like, I think he conceded a point, maybe 2 from play off all the players he marked. Whereas this year, he conceded points from play in every match. And it started against Fermanagh in the first round. He got taken for 2 or 3 from play. And that kind of continued. Now, obviously, he's still class, but like he was just at a different level last year. So, but you know what? The other thing there as well, like, is there has to be pressure on the ball out the field. Like, if the Kerry lads, if Paddy's allowed to dictate, like, he looks for David every time. Every single time he gets his hands in the ball, the head is going up looking for the brother. Like, there needs to be serious pressure on him and the other kickers on the 40. Sean O'Shea needs to be under pressure kicking that ball in, because watching the game against this morning, like, Kerry were popping ball in front of David, you know what I mean, and was bouncing into his chest. And once he gets the ball in his hands, like, it's a bit late, you know what I mean? Like, that ball can't bounce into David's chest at the weekend. So more pressure has to come out the field for sure. But yeah,
scariest proposition when a ball, no pressure into David Clifford, and we've seen it firsthand when we played them. It is just
anyone for that matter, but him of all people. The form he's in, you're wasting your time. Like,
you nearly just let him shoot, because that's it. We'll reset at the kick out and take it out from there.
Yeah, I mean, like, could the game even? Go on, Conor. Yeah.
Sorry, his mentality must be something else, because I've seen something in the last few games that I haven't seen from him before. He was taking kind of shots and they were dropping short, and you're kind of going, geez, he's snapping at them. Maybe he's going to be off form today. No, doesn't stop him from shooting. He'll have a go the next day. Once the first one goes over, then it's just like, Jesus, here he goes.
He's playing shots against Tyrone. Like, that's how much he backs himself.
Yeah, but like, if that was anyone else, you'd be whipped off, or you'd be cornered the following Tuesday night and saying, "Here, lad, look, you have to kick in 3 shots, pass the next one." But like, this man is just given license to do what he wants, and like, obviously, it's the best call ever because he's so good. But like, it's just his mentality just to keep shooting is something else, you know what I mean? And it eventually comes good for him.
Did this game even decide possibly a player of the year? Because you have David Clifford on that side, but I mean, James McCarthy is probably right up there in the mix for player of the year. To have Dublin win this All Ireland, like, he could, if he has a good final with the way he's been playing, like, he could arguably get to player of the year. He's probably playing as good as he's ever been. Like, he's not stopping. He's bombing up that pitch. It's not like some players might just, hold their energy for certain stages. Like he's really the driving force throughout this year for Dublin.
I did a piece on James McCarthy a couple of weeks ago, and I categorically say he is Dublin's greatest footballer, without a shadow of doubt. And there's a few reasons for that. Is when you need a guy to do the dirty work, James McCarthy's guy. You need a score in a critical clutch moment. I think the 17 final, he comes up with 2 huge points in the second half, and we get a bit of momentum. He's just a guy, like his second half performance against Mayo in the quarterfinal was just ferocious. So that guy for me is one of the all-time great footballers in terms of his, like you're on about mentality, Conor. James McCarthy's mentality is off the charts. That guy is, if he's 10 points up or 1 point up, he has the same mentality as if it's the next ball I need to win. And you look at his performance against Kerry last year in the second half. Talk about a man that dies in the sheet, and yet he probably went away from that game as pissed off as anybody because they lost. So I think this will be one of the greatest moments for James McCarthy. Not that he cares, but he's been that leader for me. I know Cluxon was captain, lifting the sound wire from 6 in a row and stuff, but for James McCarthy as captain, I think it'd be a fitting moment for him. And like you're on about a guy that's 33 years of age, that's not old, but in terms of what he's done and the mileage he's put in, the way he covers the acreage in Cole Park, it's a frightening sight.
That's scary, yeah.
What's scary, guys? It's some of the stuff that man can do. Like it's not natural. So, a guy
he has it all.
Doesn't he? Like, skill, fitness, tackling, just doggedness, and like he is the leader of the team. Like, the team would die for him, or he would die for that team. And I think he is. As a result, we're all seeing the fruits now of what captain looks like. He takes it with just a shrug of his shoulders, no problem. He just does that naturally. So he doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon. So I think it'll be a bittersweet moment, not only to break the all-time record for All Irelands, but to lift Sam as captain for Dublin would be fitting for a guy of that stature for me and you, just for what he's
done. You're right there. I'd say whoever wins the game, it'll probably dictate who gets the gong of Footballer of the Year. It's probably between himself and Clifford.
At the moment, 100%, yeah.
I was only thinking about it today. Like I'd probably put a Derryman as third nominee. Like I'd either put Rogers or Shane McGuigan. I thought McGuigan, like you're talking about how good Clifford has been this year. Like Shane McGuigan has been top class. I think he's been as good. Like see, Clifford gets the hype. You know, he gets all the praise and he gets all the limelight, which he rightfully deserves. But like McGuigan has stood up in every single game that Derry played this year. He was class the last day when the chips were down. He's really gone to a different level altogether. I'd probably put himself or Rogers as that number 3rd spot for the Footballer of the Year. I don't think either of them will get it.
I think they get all thirds. Both from me are all thirds this year.
Yeah.
Don't care what happens. People can argue about Fenton and McCarthy. McCarthy is nailed on as well, but if you're looking for an overall consistent year, both those guys have been phenomenal.
Yeah. I think they'll fit the three mentally. I think they'll fit McCarthy, Fenton, and Rogers in. I think they'll probably put McCarthy at 5 or 6 or something.
And I wouldn't care that because they're that good.
Yeah, 100%. I think those 2 boys from Derry will get the nod, and I think McCluskey. I think Derry might get 3. I think McCluskey's been sick. Like for a cornerback, he's as good as Thomas Sullivan. He's after getting on the score sheet. He sets up plays. He defends well. So I think Derry might get 3 this year.
I tell you, McCluskey lads, and you're on a bit of mentality. That guy Mark Clifford in the minor final. 270 got whipped for 2-5 in the first half. That guy has worked his absolute ass off to get where he has now, and what a player he is now.
He's something else. He's some pocket rocket. Jesus.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I even heard someone earlier say we ran about the most open championship ever as well this year. Yes, it's still Dublin and Kerry at the end of it. Do we see a bit of a gap to Dublin or Kerry, or is the gap closing? I suppose we saw Derry are closer than what they were last year, but are there any other teams outside of these two that we'll be seeing on Sunday that could win the big one next year?
Galway.
I just
think they just I don't think Galway's squad lads on paper when they get it right they're formidable. I think they showed last year, so they're not going to be a million miles away. I just think they need to sort out their system bit and their mentality around certain games. Derry will be there again next year. I think they're phenomenal fit. So it's very hard to know. Like, I don't think the gap is as big people think. I don't think people fear Kerry or Dublin like they used to. I think you always feel like you have an opportunity against them, and what that was shown in the semi-final is that they look at the odds for the Man and Dublin game, but yet Mana went in there, played a really brave game, went man and could have stole the game. You know, they're level with 10 minutes to go, so the gap isn't that big anymore. The problem for the likes of the Derrys and Monaghan when they do play Kerry and Dublin is that the system doesn't work for them, the structure championship. Like the likes of Derry and Monaghan need to be good every week. Dublin and Kerry can take weeks off because their panel is so strong. Where Derry and Monaghan are probably limited, and that's only just one example I'm talking about. But that's the gap in terms of panel depth. But in terms of being competitive and being close to Dublin and Kerry, I don't think teams are that far away, and they don't fear them like they used to.
Like if it's gas there. If you asked me that question 6 weeks ago, or even at the start of the championship, I couldn't have told you who'd win it. Like obviously I'd have probably Kerry and Dublin at the top two, but like I actually thought to be a Connacht team. I thought Galway could do it this year, but I also weren't writing off Mayo. Like I just said, there was a bit of freshness about them, new management. I thought they were looking good. You know what I mean? But then after one weekend, after 2 weekends, really, you're kind of going, Jesus, it's starting to take shape now. You know what I mean? But that last round of the championship, the last round of the round robin, like it was costly enough for a couple of teams, and no more so than Galway. Like I think, like Galway got caught. You know what I mean? Not finishing number one for them. They got caught. You know what I mean? And so they won't be too far away. I like Derry. I really like Derry. I really like what they're about. Division 4 team only in 2019, like what they've done in the short space of time is just phenomenal. Like there's teams out there who can't make that breakthrough at all, and they've done it in 4 years, and they seem to be getting a little bit better. Like they were a little bit better than they were last year.
Definitely.
So I can only see them getting better. Like, you know what I mean? If they had one or two more, like they brought in McAvoy full back, freed up Brenny Rodgers, like that was some move. You know what I mean? They're always finding one or two, and if they find like their under 20s have gone well, you know what I mean? Minors doing really well, so the future looks bright for them. And if they keep doing what they're doing, interesting to see what will happen with the manager.
He has to stay.
Yeah, they seem
I
to
think,
like
I
him.
think he did a phenomenal job, guys. I think he was insane. I think he didn't get enough credit for what he did with Derry this year. I thought he was brilliant.
What's his name? I was listening to Brendan Rodgers' podcast there last week, and he was just saying, they were asking him, like Thomas Niblock was asking him, you know, what do you think, will he stay or will he go? And he wasn't kind of giving too much away, but I got the sense that he might stay on and that they were really happy with him. Like he's been a coach for them for a long time, and he's that bit of continuity now going, you know. So, Jesus, how could you get rid of him? Like, you know, after this year, that's the way I'd be looking at it anyway.
Yeah, even on Derry, I mean, I interviewed Chrissy McCaig the first lockdown, and I was talking about the Tailteann Cup to him and what his thoughts were on it. I mean, I always think that's just how far Derry have come in such a short space of time to be even thinking about Tailteann Cups to potentially knocking out Kerry and to get to an All-Ireland final.
And their mindset
gives hopes to other teams as well.
Yeah, their mindset is going the whole way. Like if you listen to any of them speak, like it's no surprise they are where they are. Like if you listen to McGuigan or Chrissy or you listen to Roger speak, like Jesus, they'd make you believe that they're going to win it, and they do genuinely believe they are. You know what I mean? And that's half the battle at that level. You know.
That's sure.
Yeah. I suppose predictions for the game before we get into the final prediction. I suppose a player that you think will stand out, not specific man of the match. I know, Lee, you had a bit of stick for that earlier in the year.
That was a joke.
I love winding up my West compatriots then here in Connacht, like so.
Jesus, Twitter goes off the rails altogether, doesn't it? When something like that happens.
I didn't know people took things so seriously, and then I learned the harsh lesson as well. Never trust Sean Kavanagh. So,
well, I suppose a player you think will obviously look. We know the obvious ones. Maybe is Clifford and Conor McCarthy, but maybe a player that you think will step up and maybe not shock people, but just come of age even on Sunday.
I'm going to go either Colin Basquet or Kieran Kilkenny. I know Kilkenny, you mightn't feel a shock, but I think he's such a point to prove on Sunday. Again, a guy of that stature and that big name there, and I expect Basquet to really fire on Sunday after probably a quieter semi-final performance. So those two guys in the Dublin team. A guy that I really like with Kerry is Gavin White. He loves the expansion and the white spaces of Croke Park, so I think he's been phenomenal again this year. And you look at the goal he took against Derry, so he gets on a bit of form at the weekend. I expect that a big game.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier on, like I feel again he's ready to explode. Like I just think there's scores in him. Like like I said, he'll probably be picked up by Davy Byrne, I'd say. Like, Gainey will stay high up with Clifford. Mick Fitz will pick David Clifford, and I'd say Davy Byrne might stay in and pick Gainey and leave Gannon out to field maybe. I don't know, but that's what I'd be thinking anyway. Davy stay close to goal, but I just feel that if Kerry are to get over the line, I just feel Gainey need to get a few points and maybe even the goal, you know. But yeah, I think he might be the one to maybe just stand up and take the pressure off. Like, it's easy to say David might get man in a match, I don't know, or Conor Callan, but I just feel there's a big opportunity there for Gainey. And I'd be the same as Lee. I think Kilkenny getting the nod maybe might just drive him on that little bit, you know. He's probably pissed off, like, let's call a spade a spade. He knows he's good enough to be on that team. And now if he does get the shout, which I think he should, I think he'll grab it with both hands for sure. But who knows? Jesus, who knows? Like,
You've match winners ever. That's the reality. Like you're talking about the absolute elite of players. Like you could have, like, it's funny. Would you have tipped Graham O'Sullivan to have the game he did in All Ireland last year, and how good he, like, his contribution to the overall game was magnificent. Like, so it could be anybody. That's the reality.
Could it be O'Connor or Barry in the middle of the field?
Exactly.
Someone,
Shane
you know,
Ryan.
like, yeah, they might just get it. Like, if they get on top of Dublin in the middle of the field, like, the two boys are coming off the back of a serious performance. Remember that, you know, their two boys are coming off the back of a serious performance. Like, if Barry does a job in Fenton again, like, he could be in the running, because that'll go a long way for them winning the match. So who knows? But yeah, we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, final prediction. So, Conor, we'll go with you first. Who do you think is going to come out on top, and why?
It's as Anthony Daly says, it's like a deaf dog. It's hard to call. My heart is saying Kerry, but my head is saying Dublin. But I'm going to go with the heart. I think Kerry could win it. Don't ask me how, Dara, or why I think it. I know there seems to be more firepower in that forward line for Dublin. Jeez, I don't know. I won't be putting money on it, I'll tell you that much. But my heart is saying Kerry, so I'll just go with them for 1 or 2 point victory.
Yeah, Lee, what do you see happening?
I've backed Dublin since day one, guys, and I've that categorically written down. I just think Dublin have been bored for so long. I think they woke up quarterfinal time. I think this is the test they are craving. I'm going to go with Armory. I think they have too much scores, too much quality. If they hit form at all, I'm backing Dublin for that, and I'm going to back them by 2 to 4 points. Not without a lot of mad moments. I think it's going to be an absolute belter game, though. I really think this is the game that is just going to just leave us wanting more. So, but for me, just on balance on paper, Dublin 2 to 4 points.
Do you know what's funny? Like, we're all here saying that, like, it's the two best teams, and they are, and it's going to be, it's set up for an all-time classic and an unreal game, and it probably will be. But I was just checking the weather forecast today, and it looks okay, but, like, you know, if it pissed rain there Sunday morning, or it changes the whole complexion of the game, you know what I mean? A greasy ball, or an early black card, or a red card, or somebody does something stupid. Who knows what's going to happen? This was so exciting. I think we're all expecting a classic and like a shootout, and I hope it is that. But there is just this opportunity, this chance that it might just not be the case. You know what I mean? And it could be a slog or a dogfight, and then it's anyone's game. But let's just hope it's a classic.
Conor, even a win in Croke Park is scary.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a normal wind. I know that sounds like it's a swirling wind, and it's very hard to judge where to kick the ball or how to, you know, get your shot away and kind of judge it. So things like that. Like, I remember you take the 2015 All Ireland with Kerry and Dublin then. Remember, it's like a monsoon, so it could be an absolute war like that as well. And that was actually a great spectacle as well. It was intriguing to watch. So I agree with you. Yeah, like, there's so much factors at play, and it just adds to the whole kind of climax and build up as well. So as I said, we're on Thursday, and I'm like, Conor, I just can't wait to be there and witnessing two teams going at it. And that's what you love at high level sports, is a game like this, just to enjoy and take it in.
I wouldn't be surprised if it came down to, you know, a last minute free again. See, that's one thing. Kerry have the better free taker by far. Who's going to hit the frees? Costello's probably going to take the frees. Like, you know, he's nowhere near as sure as Shawnee is. So that'll be a massive, I suppose, bonus for Kerry the weekend. But yeah, like, would you back against the draw or a last minute free for either team? Or geez, I hope it goes down to the stretch anyway. But
I think it will. I really do. I think there's so much quality for each team to pull away, and that's the quality of these players they have. They just know they've never gone. So I totally expect it to be game in the balance. 10 minutes ago,
Cluxton for a last minute free, last minute 45. Who knows? Like there's 3 players going for 9 medals, isn't there? 9 All Irelands. Like
Simons, Cluxton, and Marty.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever done it before, isn't that right? Like. Jesus, like it'll be so.
And the game is set up lovely because there's so much sideshows going on. The rivalry between Kerry haven't beaten Dublin since 85, 86 in All Ireland. There's so much more intriguing stories outside the game that adds to it as well. So it's brilliant.
And even the matchups, like I mean, like it's going to be really interesting to see Mick Fitz on Clifford, and like even I'd say like Paddy's due a good game as well. Like he's really due a really good game, and like he loves Crow Park. He'll need minding, and if Mershon isn't up to it, like Paddy could have a massive influence there. The other side of it, then, like is Morley going to mark? Like this is the thing. You have to ask this question of Kerry and Tyke Morley. Like make him mark someone, and then there's a bit more room inside. You know what I mean? So there's going to be matchups everywhere.
Kenny's huge. That's why the Kenny factor for me is massive.
Yeah. And like John Small and O'Shea, like. Jesus Christ, that's some battle. It has been 2 lads who just go at it, you know what I mean? So there's going to be little matchups all over the place, which is going to be exciting. Sometimes it's actually hard to keep track of everything, but look, what you say?
Yeah. Good luck to David Goff.
Yeah, but sure, look, no better man for it, I suppose.
That's true,
Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, I suppose the great thing about this game is you could literally just talk about it for hours you without even covering everything that, as Lee said, that all the side shows and the amount of quality we'll have on the field. So hopefully it'll live up to the hype that everyone's hoping, and we get another classic. But lads, brilliant chatting to you for the last hour. Cheers, thanks very much for coming on.
Yes, appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks.
No problem there.